Now let's move on to our next company. While Meralco is a household name, not everyone knows how the company is evolving beyond power distribution to shaping the future of energy production in the country. As the country pushes for energy security and cleaner power, Meralco Power Gen is leading the charge through large-scale solar and battery storage projects. Today, we have invited the MGEN team to walk us through their growth plans, their role in Meralco's broader strategy, and what this could mean for investors. Please join me in welcoming our two speakers from MGEN. First, we have Mr. Dennis B. Jordan. He is the President and CEO of MGEN Renewable Energy, the renewable energy company of Meralco Power Gen Corporation. He is a seasoned executive with over 2 decades of diverse leadership experience in the energy and infrastructure sector. And he has joined MGEN Renewables as the company ramps up action to accelerate the country's sustainable energy transition by 2030. He has a solid track record of delivering business growth, driving change management, optimizing performance and profitability, and leading teams on complex transformational journeys that generate value while maintaining cost efficiencies. Let's give a warm round of applause to Mr. Dennis Jordan. Next, we have Mr. Lino Bernardo, who serves as President and CEO of MGEN Thermal, the thermal operations unit of MGEN. In his role, he leads strategic initiatives focused on sustainable growth, innovation, and operational excellence. Through his leadership, MGEN Thermal is driving transformative change by pushing forward with fresh approaches to energy generation and helping establish best practices in the industry. With more than 20 years of executive experience, he has built his career across both the energy and technology sectors. He previously held significant roles at Aboitiz Power, AP Renewables, and Thermal Luzon, gaining valuable insights into power generation and renewable energy markets. Let's give a warm round of applause to Mr. Lino Bernardo.
Hey, good morning, Dennis and Lino, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Okay, so guys, you might be wondering, why are we talking about MGEN today and not Meralco? Well, because you know, for those of you who own shares of Meralco, you might be wondering, why is a power company performing so strongly when, in fact, usually power is considered to be defensive, slow growing, and just cruising along. But, Meralco has been performing quite strongly, and one of the reasons why it is because of MGEN, which is why we're talking about it, the exciting growth story of MGEN and the power generation business of Meralco, which is driving growth. Okay, so that said, can you talk about MGEN's current portfolio and how it's expected to grow over the next 5 years? Maybe we can begin with Dennis, and then Lino, you could talk about the thermal.
Yeah, sure. First of all, good morning, everybody. Excited to be here and delighted to be sharing with you some of the things we're doing from a renewables perspective. So at the moment, I think all of us are aware in terms of the government aspiration of bringing more renewable energy into the energy mix. At the moment, we have only something like 22% of our energy mix is actually coming from renewable. The aspiration of the government is really to push that to roughly around 35% by 2030. And then a big target, of course, is to achieve 50% by 2040. And MGEN is certainly aligned to the government's aspiration. At the moment, in terms of the MGEN Renewables business, and I'll talk a little bit about siguro later on to explain lang MGEN and certainly Meralco. No? The One Meralco organization is actually 2 verticals, the distribution unit and the MGEN business. And I look after MGEN Renewable. At the moment, we have 7 plants, which you can see probably in your screen. The total capacity for the renewable is a small 400 megawatts. When I say small, that's humbly because it can actually power almost 400,000 homes with pure renewable energy, typical household requirements. At the moment, we have two projects that are ongoing, April. The first one is really a joint venture with Vina, 450 megawatt AC, so that will bring us to roughly around 1,000 megawatts total combined capacity. That will happen early part of next year. But the more exciting part about MGEN is really the first in the world, and I'm not too sure whether you've heard about this, April or Charles. The biggest solar and battery project in the world is actually not happening anywhere else except here in the Philippines. This is 3,500 megawatt peak of solar coupled with a 4,500 megawatt hour of battery. You will not see any other project happening like this in the world. This is bigger than what they had in China, 3,000 megawatt in Golmud. This is bigger than what they have in India, around 2,800. So I think we have certainly the view of the world, nakatingin ho sa atin in the Philippines on executing this very exciting project that we have in Terra Solar, which is part of the MGEN renewable portfolio. So in the next 2 years from current where we are of 400 megawatts, April, to answer your question, we will be growing by as much as 7,000%, and that will happen in the next 2.5 years. So that's really the key prospect for MGEN Renewables. Watch this space, by the way, And then outside of that, we're also focusing on something like another 3,000 megawatt peak of potential projects. We are in partnership with Actis, one of the largest renewable energy investor in the world. And recently, I think in the papers naman to, April, we signed an MOU with Aqua, which is one of the biggest player in the world, and certainly biggest in the Middle East, particularly Saudi Arabia. They have something like 45 gigawatt of installed capacity portfolio in the world, and we'll tap into that experience that they have. Siguro, I'll pass it to Lino.
Hey, thank you, Dennis. April, going back, perhaps we can go to the first slide. So let me just anchor our growth strategy and also start from where we are. So MGEN's core strategy is anchored on the proverbial trilemma of driving a balance between security, affordability, and sustainability. Those three things are what we are balancing. For those of you here who are not very technical, I'll try to explain briefly how the electricity market works. We are here today enjoying this session because of electricity, but we take it for granted, right? It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. But it takes a lot of assets, it takes a lot of people, processes, systems, regulations to make it happen, right? So us on the generation side, we aim to provide this balance, energy security, affordability, sustainability. The most expensive electricity is the one that you don't have. Pag nag-blackout, hindi po tayo mabubuhay. So importante po, energy security. And we've experienced this through the many crises that we have been experiencing. Affordability, it has to be affordable, and I'll come back to that later. And of course, it has to be sustainable, right? Can we go to the next slide, please? Underpinning this all energy industry and market is the need for us to grow our economy. So there is a huge correlation between electricity consumption and GDP growth. Tayo po sa Philippines, we are only consuming just under 1,000 kilowatt hour per person. Vietnam, Thailand is consuming about 3,000 kilowatt hours, about 3 times as much as we do. And Singapore is consuming about 10,000 kilowatt hours per person. So there is a huge gap in terms of electricity consumption, and you understand the GDP of these countries. So going back to MGEN, we have 3 pillars: thermal, which I'm responsible for; renewables, which Dennis is responsible for; and for now, our president, with my help, is also managing the natural gas pillar. Yan po yung tatlong pillars natin ngayon.
So sir, when you say base, yung thermal, that's coal. Tama ba? Thermal is coal.
Coal and diesel.
Coal and diesel.
Oh,
Oo,
so-
okay. Sige. Just to make it clear to
Right.
the audience na
So,
yun yung...
explain ko lang po. Yung base load na sinasabi, yung ating thermal, ito yung tinatawag nating 24/7. Ito yung ating workhorse. Kumbaga sa tindahan, ito yung 24/7. Laging bukas, hindi nagsasara. Yung transition naman po, recently, MGEN, together with the Aboitiz Power and San Miguel, co-invested in the largest today, one of the largest LNG to power facilities in Batangas. So we believe that gas to power is a good transition to less carbon or carbon easy technology in the future. And of course, Dennis mentioned about renewables. So where we are today in thermal, on the thermal side and gas side, so today we're about 1,500 megawatts in coal and gas, and we are a total of 3,375 in natural gas. By the way, other than our investment in the LNG to power plant in Batangas, we also have an investment in Pacific Light and Power, which is a gas power plant in Singapore. So that's a major investment. And recently, they've started a 100 megawatt fast start gas plant. And we are soon to start a 670 megawatt LNG to power power plant also in Singapore that is going to be hydrogen ready. In terms of growth, we've recently made a decision to construct a battery energy storage system in Carbon in Cebu, and also to add an additional coal power plant also in Toledo, Cebu. It's about an 82 megawatt gross capacity to fuel the need in the Visayas region. And further down towards the end of the decade, we are also planning to construct a 1,200 megawatt coal-fired power plant, high efficiency, low emission technology in Atimonan. Again, to fuel the energy needs of our growing economy.
Okay, so in other words, the growth of thermal and LNG is also very attractive. Yeah.
Yes, LNG is important, no? Because one feature of LNG to power, it's very easy to construct. No? A combined cycle power plant is relatively easier, no? To construct compared to a coal-fired power plant or a nuclear plant. So, and the gas is also accessible, right? So we have Malampaya, and of course we can import liquefied natural gas.
So gas is clean, but it's not. Is it renewable? It's not.
Well, if you take a, if you,
So
if
that's
you,
why it's transition, ba ganun?
yes, it's not renewable, but it's less carbon, right? So it's in terms of carbon intensity, it's definitely less than coal.
Can I just add? Like, I just want to ask, because you showed a while ago the triangle, and you talked about, I think, kasi syempre usually we always talk about sustainability, which is important. But I think, di ba, one issue is affordability. Is that one of the reasons why there's still an expansion on coal?
Exactly. So today, if we do the math, coal is still the cheapest, right? And you know, Philippines, we still have some of our countrymen who don't have access to affordable electricity. And like what I said, no, in terms of electricity per capita consumption, napakababa pa natin. So we need to make sure that the consumers, through their distribution utilities and the industry also, have access to low-cost low cost, and 24/7 electricity.
I see. Charles?
Yeah. Sir, you mentioned a while ago the LNG plant, right? And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that this basically was one of the big reasons why the MGEN's performance this year grew significantly. So my question is, for the next, say, for next year, for 2026, and maybe for the rest of the year, how many more like plants would come on board that could potentially be the next leg for the earnings of MGEN?
So, as I've said, the first one, the immediate one is the Carmen battery energy storage. No, it's 40 megawatt hour, 20 megawatt battery energy storage. So that's the first one that will come out. That will be sometime April, May of next year, because it's easy to install, easy to construct. The next one will be the Toledo expansion, the 82 megawatt coal plant that we are aiming to finish by 2028, and then the larger plant, the Atimonan coal plant, by end of 2030. And as I've said, internationally, we are expanding in Singapore, 670 megawatt, and we are also looking at opportunities in Malaysia as our regional play. No? So, by the way, I mentioned about driving the economic growth. Our mission is not only to do that here in the Philippines, but also in other parts of the region, including Malaysia. So we want to penetrate that part of the region.
Yeah, I was sorry. I have a quick follow-up because you mentioned all these, all very exciting, a lot of expansion plans, no, not just in the Philippines, in Singapore, in Malaysia. How are you funding all of these capex, no? And yeah, could you share?
Siguro I'll start. With regards to Terra Solar, this is one of the biggest investment here in the Philippines, by the way. We had to had 6 banks support the $150 billion requirement as investment into this particular project, yung Terra Solar natin. But also we had a partner, Actis, which is based in the UK, but also a global player at that, actually infused a huge capital into the project, amounting to roughly around $600 million. This is the single biggest investment on a renewable project in the Philippines ever. So a couple of things, what it means to me, Charles, is that certainly the eye of the world is into the Philippines. The fact that, in renewable space, international companies can actually invest as well. This shows to us, it gives us a tick of confidence on the Philippine energy market. And that to me is a very positive signal. And ongoingly, of course, for the new projects that we are eyeing smaller projects in the renewable space. Nabanggit ko kanina yung mga gigawatt projects. We're looking at another 3,000 megawatts, so 3 gigawatt project. But we're also interested on the smaller ones. On the smaller ones, of course, we'll try to use equity and debt. That's our strategy. Lino?
So for the projects that I mentioned, the battery energy storage is fully funded by M Thermal. So it shows you the strength of the balance sheet of M Thermal. It can finance its own project 100%. For the expansion in Toledo, the equity will also come from M Thermal, but there will be local financing. Similar for the Atimonan project. And there is so much interest, that we're receiving offers from other parties to participate in the Atimonan project. But obviously for that large of a project, there has to be debt.
I see. So, Sir Dennis, I'd like to ask you about Terra Solar, because of course that will be the major jump in the capacity of renewables. So maybe you could talk about the pipeline, like what can we expect this year, next year, like when will all that capacity kick in?
For sure. So very, very exciting mga kasama. 3,500 megawatt hours peak of solar and 4,500 megawatt hours of battery. So imagine yourself standing in Pasig, middle of Pasig, and the entire Pasig is just filled with solar panels, ano? And also around 1,000 containers of battery systems. So we're actually phase one. Our commitment is really to supply Meralco. There was a CSP in 2022, and this project, the owners were different at that time. We bought into the project lang noong 2016. Actually, 2023, and the project actually won the requirements of Meralco. The commitment is to deliver phase one by next year, and then, of course, the full project by 2027, February 2027. The project is actually progressing well. We're looking at energizing as load by November of this year, and then energizing later on as generator by end of the year. We're pushing everybody. We're getting the support of the Department of Energy into this, and working with NGCP. Unprecedented kasi to, so we really have to work hard and convince them about the things that we're doing. And by the way, this is also the first test case for our large-scale grid forming technology. This is the most exciting part about the technology we're bringing, because the issue with renewable energy is really, the issue is a couple of things: intermittency, and also making sure that the grid will be stable. With the new technology that we're using here, it actually allows for generation of MVAR, which helps in the frequency regulation, that helps stabilize the grid. So ito yung una na in this scale that we're actually implementing around the world. We brought April ang DOE, NGCP into China to witness actually the technology providing yung RPS na requirement by the grid, and demonstrate to them that it is being done by the new technology. The other thing is yung sa intermittency, the issue, Charles, kasi alam ho natin yung solar can only provide energy up to maximum 17-18% of its installed capacity. Ibig sabihin compared to the maximum of what the solar can actually provide for, let's say, an entire day, supposedly, it actually provides just 17%. But with a battery system, narinig nyo rin yung City Core, but for a large-scale battery system, in fact, for the Meralco requirement, we can extend yung instead na 5 hours lang yung available mo, 17% of 24 hours, that's almost 5 hours. We are able to extend the supply of energy at this capacity, 850 megawatts from 8 o'clock in the morning hanggang 9 o'clock in the evening. So that's really the point of this project and what's exciting about the project. Large scale home, we have proven that it is competitive to a thermal alternative for a mid-merit requirement. So yun yung groundbreaking aspect ng technology na to.
I see.
Singit lang ako,
Yeah,
boss.
yeah.
Kasi maybe a lot of some of the audience might also be asking, because Terra Solar is also under SPNEC, right? Which is another listed company. So could you explain, sir, just the dynamics of because SPNEC is also listed, MGEN through Meralco. So how can you just clarify the relationships and the role of SPNEC in MGEN's growth?
Napaka-gano na. Very good question, Charles. For those who may be looking at our SPNECO is the listed name dun sa stock exchange natin. So Meralco one there are two vertical businesses in Meralco, the distribution unit and then yung MGEN. And MGEN owns MGEN Renewables, yung hawak ko ho. And we are invested into SPNEC by roughly around initially 51%, but we increased our share recently to more than 55%. And yung Terra Solar is under SPNEC. So if you want, of course, I don't want to, but if you're looking at the stocks, the SPNEC is owned through MGEN Renewables and MGEN by Meralco, by roughly around 55%. I think 55.7. So yun yung natin, yung structure. And then ang Terra Solar po is a subsidiary of SPNEC.
Yeah. Can I add to that question lang? So, I think newspaper reports have said that SPNEC will be used as the vehicle for renewables, if I'm not mistaken. So, can we expect asset injections? And, will you do like, I don't know,
No, I might be
offerings,
talking
yung
about
mga
something beyond my pay grade, but it's causing a lot of excitement. Kasi outside of, sorry April, I'm not trying to skirt kasi I don't want to provide information I'm not approved to share. But it's causing a lot of, it's causing a lot of excitement because, what will be the vehicle that we will use for future investments into the renewable space, Of course, MGEN Renewables and SPNEC, I think there's a opportunity to look into that capital structure and market structure. There's a lot of new capacity. Na-explain ko kanina, magiging almost 3,500 megawatt AC ho kami in the next 3 years. And we're looking at another 3,000 megawatt projects with very large companies as a joint venture partner. So April, sorry, not skirting around, but yeah, it's causing a lot of excitement for us internally,
Sige, so abangan ang susunod na kabanata. Anyway, so that said, okay, I mean, everything looks so exciting. Pero kasi, right now, di ba, there's a, believe it or not, oversupply situation in Luzon, if I'm not mistaken. Is this something that MGEN is worried about?
If I may, April, I think it's very good. One way to look at it, if we are enjoying low prices, it's good for you, good for industry, and that should drive the economy up. And when you drive the economy up, that will, of course, increase demand. And that will signal more build, right? So and by the way, the main drivers of the low electricity prices are the weather, and believe it or not, because of the low coal prices. So those two things are helping our electricity prices today. So we are not worried because we look at the long term. You will always experience these low prices and high prices. And what we are aiming to do is make sure that electricity prices are stable through a long period. So we look at the long term, and we are sure that at some point demand will pick up, and we are going to be there to make sure that we supply.
And how do you structure your supply agreements? Are you mostly long-term contract or are you heavily exposed to spot?
It's a mix for the long-term contracts, particularly the PSAs with distribution utilities. They're regulated, so they're very strict, certain procedures. But you also have midterm, short-term contracts, 3 years to 5 years, emergency supply contracts of 1 year, and we also participate in the wholesale electricity spot market. And the other is, of course, we participate in the reserves market, which is one of our sources of growth this year. So that means we are supplying a regulating reserve, dispatchable reserve, and contingency reserve. These are all reserves required for us to run our grid. Make sure that it's balanced, so that we don't experience any blackouts or undesirable events in the grid.
If I may add lang sa sinabi din ni Sir Lino, the Renewable Act, which was signed in 2008, really clarifies the targeted number of capacity that we need to have for renewable energy. And that target is 35% by 2030 and 50% by 2040. Those are very high targets po. So the Renewable Act says this will be the mix that we have. In this year, I think we're roughly around 22%. So there's still a long way for us, to increase the penetration of renewable energy. And there's actually what they call yung RPS standard, Renewable Portfolio Standard. So the government initially mandated that the amount of renewable energy that you're consuming as a distribution unit or retail electricity supplier should increase 1% year on year. That was repealed in 2023, naging 2.54 po. So there will be an acceleration. So from a renewable perspective, the Renewable Act is very clear in terms of aspiration of leaving a better environment for our children. Yun naman ho talaga target natin. And the RPS requirement increases that. So from a renewable space, there's certainly a lot of space still to grow, April, to answer your question.
So what is Meralco's current energy mix, and do you expect it to be aligned with the the government's target of 30% renewables by 2030 or 35? Sorry.
I think April today we are about 67% gas, 8% renewables. That's the 400 that Dennis mentioned. And then the balance is thermal, right? So that's what we have today. So 67 plus 8, 75. So 25% is thermal. So 2030, thermal will remain probably 24%. Gas will be probably in the 30s or 40s, and the rest is renewables. No, I think we have a slide there. No, but maybe they can check it later on the mix. So there you go. So M natural gas is about 43%. M renewables will be 33%, and M thermal will be 24% by 2030. Not quite the mix that the government is aiming for, but thereabouts.
Highlight ko lang, sir, no? So the target is the doubling, basically,
Correct.
until 2030, the total capacity from
Doubling,
all these.
yes.
Pero sir, yung doubling, kasi like I was researching, doing the math, but then yun na nga, a while ago, you mentioned about Malaysia. And also, I think on the renewable, di ba, may ilan ba? 3 gigawatt
Wala pa dito yung
Wala pa dyan.
Well, in the forecast we have there, the 379, So renewable ho will jump from 8% of our total portfolio to 33%, And then if some of the projects that I mentioned earlier comes to fruition, it will be bigger than the 33% there.
Yeah.
But we have work to do.
April, if I may, what's included in the 10,000 here, the projects that Dennis mentioned, on the thermal side is the Carmen BES battery energy storage, the expansion in Toledo of 82 megawatt, and the Atimonan coal-fired power plant, the 1,200 megawatt power plant. And for 2030, I think it already includes the 670 megawatt expansion in Singapore, but not yet the other new projects that we're looking at.
So, more or less, this one is secure.
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of listed power companies also in the PSE. So I guess my question is, what would you say is like MGEN's biggest strength compared to the other listed companies? I'm sure some of them are even your partners, right? But what would you say is your biggest advantage over the other power companies?
Dennis, would you like to say or?
Well, many things. But of course, I do respect our other players as well. We have a DNA of my competitor, one of our competitors, so we certainly respect everybody and appreciate their contribution to our energy mix. I think the strength of the renewable business in particular, if you're looking at SPNEC and Terra Solar, the strength is the fact that we have a contract with the Meralco for the next 20 years. That's really the value of SPNEC. And many of our contracts as well, we have a recent expansion with our existing facility that's also contracted for the next 20 years. And certainly all the other projects that we're looking for a smaller one. Hopefully you'll hear about it towards the end of the year. That's also going to be contracted through our own retail electricity supplier. Small, But the other bigger ones is really using the government JAP programs and yung green energy auction. It's a great way to de-risk your project in terms of having a taker, an off-taker for your project. So the government basically underwrites the requirement for the project. But the other side of it is also leaning on the more than 120 years of legacy of One Meralco. No? So, in fact, portion of the project is being executed. For the appreciation of the crowd here, we're building substations, 2 substations, 230, and 1 major substation, 500 kV. We're putting transmission for the 230 kV of around 30 towers. And then yung 500 kV line namin, we're putting 89 towers. In a span of 14 months. Guys, we will not be able to do it unless we build on Meralco, Miescore, and the capability that they have. We will not be able to do this without those capabilities. I think to me is really the inherent legacy of Meralco Group, One Meralco, the resources that they have, the fact that many of our projects is really long-term contracts, particularly Terra Solar. And of course, the strong legacy that MVP as the head of our organization in terms of really fueling growth is one of the, to me, one of the most motivating factor in terms of pursuing some of the projects that we're doing now. Sorry, Lino.
I just want to add a couple of things. We are not the largest today, so there is headroom. You know the grid limits, no, and the regional and national grid limits. So we have headroom to grow. We are truly balanced in the sense that we have LNG to power, so we have natural gas, we have thermal, we have renewables, and we have international exposure. And like what Dennis mentioned, we are really invested. We have a strong team, and we are making it stronger, right? So there's so many good things happening, and I'm quite confident of achieving the objectives that we have for the mid and long term with all these good resources that we have within One Meralco, and of course in MGEN.
Okay, so we don't have a lot of time. So I guess last question na lang. So any of you gentlemen can answer this. Siguro ito na lang. Wag naman natin tanggalin si Meralco because siya yung listed entity. But so how does MGEN fit into the overall story of Meralco and target contribution to Meralco over the long term?
So, but my brief answer is we are the growth engine because it's a competitive market, no? So where you can really grow and innovate. So those 2 things we can do and contribute to Meralco. Dennis?
Yeah, just to add to yung sinabi ni Sir Lino, April and Charles, really very exciting for the One Meralco Group overall. At the moment, the MGEN vertical, or the generating arm of the One Meralco Group contributes roughly around 37% to a maximum 39% of the overall One Meralco net income. 2026, you'll see a big shift. We'll be heading around 44 to 46%, of course, depending on month-on-month performance. So you will see that the contribution of MGEN, the generating arm of the One Meralco Group, contributing more and more into the coffers of the One Meralco Group overall. I think I'd like to end by saying siguro and sharing with you that one of the statements made by our chairman that in the next 5 years, you will see the golden age. Well, that's what he said, and I hope I'm quoting him correctly. In the next 5 years, you will see the golden age of MGEN. So watch that space. Of course, after gold, baka diamond age. So please watch that space and please support us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your time and your sharing with us.
Thank you again to the President and CEO of MGEN Renewables, Mr. Dennis Jordan, and Mr. Lino Bernardo, COO of MGEN Thermal. Okay, so Miss April, can we get your thoughts on MGEN for our clients?
Okay, so as discussed by the two gentlemen here, MGEN will be driving the growth of Meralco, making it more exciting than your typical power company that just grows single digit every year. And it's good to know that the capacity will double in the next 5 years, plus some potential upside if the other projects that they're working on will pan out.
Just to add, no, and on top of all of that, they're paying out the Meralco is paying out 4.8% in dividends every year.
Yes.
Right, so there's also that sustainability.
Yeah, I just want to highlight nga na that I think Meralco technically broke down yesterday or 2 days ago. So of course, Juanes will tell you not to buy it because it broke down. But for us, we're actually viewing it as a good opportunity for bargain hunters because of that growth, the growth story of MGEN plus the dividend.